The internet's going to do what the internet's going to do. You're not going to change that one bit.
Well, this is First at 4. Bryan Kohberger, the man charged with 4 University of Idaho students last year, doesn't want cameras in the courtroom. According to court filings, it's because of social media posts made about him that overanalyze his body language. Kohberger's trial is set for October 2nd of this year for the of Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogen, and Kaylee Gonzalez at a home in Moscow. So far, a judge has allowed cameras in every hearing, but a brief filed on June 6th says Kohberger and his attorneys want more limited camera use in the courtroom. Kohberger's attorneys say that under the Sixth Amendment, he has a right to a fair trial, and more access to viewing Kohberger in hearings could unfairly prejudice the trial. And you can read more about this right now at ktvb.com.
So Bryan Kohberger's defense team has just filed a motion requesting the removal of these cameras from the courtroom. They don't want anybody to hyperanalyze their client, to zoom in on images of his junk or of the defense's bench, because it may affect the outcome of the trial. It may affect how the potential jurors are seeing Bryan Kohberger. Do you think these cameras are hindering any part of this judicial process? What is your opinion on social media's role within the judicial process? Because the defense is saying everything their client does is hyperanalyzed. Do you agree with this? But the media is hitting back saying, hang on, whoa. That particular image was taken from Twitter. It wasn't done by anybody that was filming in the courtroom. This is just people on the internet doing what people on the internet do. And do you think that's okay for these people on the internet to do whatever it is they're doing? Do you believe that they are scripting a story in a particular way to fit the narrative they're trying to say? Because I have some thoughts on this. And if you like open discussions, then this is the place to be. Welcome to The Point. Let's talk about it. So for Ann Taylor to sit here and say everything Bryan Kohberger is doing is being overanalyzed and it could affect how the outcome of this trial will be isn't necessarily 100% incorrect. But first, I would say, let's look at this. State law in Idaho says this is the process of selecting a jury. Jurors will receive a qualification form and questionnaire. The judge and attorneys will question prospective jurors. The series of questions is sometimes called voir dire, basically meaning speak the truth. The judge and lawyers will then determine whether any of you has any information concerning the case or any opinions or attitudes which either of the lawyers believe may cause you to favor or disfavor some part of the evidence or one party over the other. So let's be upfront and honest here. The odds of Metal Favor 629 on Twitter or Polycurious Rainbow Bright on Facebook being selected, even being selected, are probably slim to none. So it's also a safe bet that this individual who went on Twitter and made this post is not in any way, shape, or form going to be on this jury. And I highly doubt he has affected anyone on this jury. For the defense to make this an issue right now and push to see that this is, seen through, I'll be honest with you, in my own opinion, it's a huge mistake. The vast part of the media here, every single headline is reading of negative connotation towards Bryan Kohberger and towards the defense. Almost all of them. So I would say, if you remove these cameras, what image are you more than likely to see? Are you going to see a picture of this? Or would you see a picture of this? Which one would you prefer, Ms. Taylor? Cameras are in the courtroom so that anybody who is interested in hearing about a case has that ability to see it in real time, unedited, unfiltered, without any bias. Now, that doesn't mean that people can't take those images, take those videos, and spin it to a particular narrative. The only people allowed in this courtroom are going to be press, people with credentials. So the narrative will be controlled by the mainstream press. And it does not take a rocket scientist to see how the mainstream press is going to spin every single story. So yes, while there are individuals on the internet hyper-analyzing and hyper-focusing on the negative, yes, that's true. There are also individuals on the internet who are saying, hang on, wait a minute. I'm being told this one thing in the headline, and I've pointed it out in previous videos. All the headlines are saying that the state is ready, the state was ready, the defense is stalling, the defense is filing false motions, and we can get on the trial and see. The defense has requested discovery, and the state is over there bumbling, saying, I didn't know it was going to be an issue. None of that would have been so readily available if those cameras weren't on there. And we don't get enough of a wider perspective here on social media to make our own little initial determinations one way or the other, but nothing we're saying here is a fact. Nothing we're saying here is going to end up on the jury, and it's a safe assumption that the vast majority of y'all, almost I would say 100%, aren't going to end up being selected on this jury. Now, I mean, if you are selected to be a potential member, you're going to have to be up front and say, yep, I've been following the case, it's on social media, and that'll be that. You won't be on the jury. Problem solved, right? So this is a huge problem if this is allowed. And I don't honestly see the state pushing against this a whole lot because it benefits them. The majority of the press on this case is negative towards the defendant. He is not necessarily being presumed innocent at this particular time if you go to all these major networks. So for the defense to say this and make this case and pretend as if all this negative coverage is strictly because of those cameras is absolutely incorrect. And they are hurting themselves. Because once again, if you hadn't noticed during these hearings, Bryan Kohberger is wearing a suit. He's wearing a tie. He's got his hair fixed. Now, go all the way back to his original hearing. Here's a picture of it. So how is he being perceived in the courtroom right now? In a little bit better favor. And there have been plenty of people on here using the footage from this courtroom to speak a little bit more fair on both sides of this particular issue. I being one of them. So the defense is making a mistake here. I would be highly surprised if the prosecutors fought against this, seeing how this would probably benefit them. And we're just going to have to see how the judge rules in the future. Now, it was set to be on the 1st at 1 p.m., but that has now been postponed. At the time of this recording, we're scheduled to do a Zoom meeting at that time to figure out when they were going to hear this particular issue. I would hope that the judge continues to allow cameras. Yes, cameras have been zoomed in on Bryan Kohberger. And yes, they have been, focused on the defense. But they've also been focused on the prosecution. I don't think anybody who was handling a video camera was trying to focus in on particular documents that Ann Taylor was looking at. I do believe that's a little petty. And if this motion is granted and the media is not allowed the access that they are wanting, it's going to backfire in the defense like you wouldn't believe. I don't perceive this as being an issue where Bryan Kohberger is being viewed negatively. It is given everybody on both sides of this particular case and those who are kind of in the middle like myself an opportunity to see firsthand account of what is being said and what is being talked about, and it is keeping the judicial process fair and open, which is what it should be. That's what it was intended to be, and it has very little to do with social media. The internet's going to do what the internet's going to do. You're not going to change that one bit. Nobody is. If somebody wants to microanalyze every single little gesture, they're just going to replay the same stuff. And they're going to reanalyze the same stuff. And the images they're going to pull are going to be skewed towards a particular direction. So this is a violation of our rights. This is a violation of the judicial process. It should be open and viewed for all public who are interested. But they don't have a courtroom big enough for this. So they do have to have cameras. Now, if they want to modify it a little bit and have it just a fixed camera in one particular part of the courtroom, I mean, I would be fine with that. That should be perfectly okay, because there are certain cameras and there are certain microphones that are used by these networks that can zoom in fairly close and hear things that shouldn't necessarily be heard. So if the court wants to set up a particular camera and they want to have it fixed where it can't be adjusted and moved, I mean, I would be good with that too. But what are your thoughts on this, and how are you feeling? I've got a poll up in the community post. Let me know one way or the other if you think this helps or hurts him. Either way, I am interested in your thoughts. Other than that, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here, and I'll catch you in the next one.